work as a good therapy for recovery, and it also acts as a vehicle for people with mental illness to move forward in the process of recovery. And most probably our patients prefers to work also. So the great majority of people with mental illness, they desire for a competitive employment. And the vocational rehabilitation is the effective way to achieve the goal. Let us see about the India and the employment. Certain fundamental issues are like that. Like India still continues to be an agrarian economy where agriculture is a chief occupation in the rural area. And as we know, there is a major difference between the urban and rural populations, which provide a great impact on the conceptualization of the vocational rehab program. And family is a key resource to cater the needs of the patients with mental illness. And our society is not consumer oriented. At times, even the mental health professionals and the family members can take decisions on behalf of the patients. And there are more opportunities in the informal sectors because informal sectors focus on the small scale unit, flexible timings are there, and there is no need for any specific training. So patients prefers to stay in the informal sectors. And moreover, the vocational services which we are providing, everything is in hospital bound. So patients and the family members, they are stigmatized to utilize this vocational services. And moreover, we follow a train and place model. So let us see about the low expectations of the professionals. So the expert professionals say that people with mental health problems are unlikely to be able to work, and so the people with mental health problems believe they cannot work and they give up trying to get the jobs also. And very few people with mental health problems are in employment, and this made the employers to believe that people with mental health problems cannot work, so don't employ them. Let us discuss about the models which we are using in our Indian population. As ma'am have said about the supported employment, which is nothing but the place and train model, let us see how it is applicable to our population. And still we are following a train and place model and see whether it is applicable still yet. So supported employment is nothing but we are placing the patients first and then giving on-the-spot training to them, and it will be like an unlimited support for them. So competitive employment is a primary goal. Eligibility will be based on the individual preferences. Rapid job search will be there and minimal pre-vocational training. So there is no stepwise approach and it will be a quicker approach. It will be integrated into the work of the clinical team and it is an unlimited support. So this model, in the Western countries, they repeatedly stress about the supported employment, but we still follow the train and place model. Let's see, this model has a strong evidence in its favor than any other vocational approach, but it is not suitable everyone at all times to our Indian population. Why? Because psychiatric disability is significantly different from other disabilities because of the intermittent and episodic process. And it is very difficult to predict the cause of illness and the level of disability for one individual at any specific point in time. So who benefits with this supported employment? People who are not impeded by poor social skills and negative symptomatology, people with good pre-morbid functioning level and as a good occupational role functioning, people with a previous good work history, and if they have a positive attitude towards work, and who receive ongoing support in their job and who are actively participate in the occupational intervention. So what about the remaining population? So they will come under the moderate disability. So these are all the people who need train and place model, which is nothing but a vocational training, which we are doing it. So vocational training is nothing but a train and place approach. It provides a variety of services to help the people with disabilities who enter or re-enter the workforce. So it is a work honoring program for moderately disabled who needs vigorous vocational inputs. So this is a conceptual framework of vocational service which we are following in our staff daycare. So initially when a patient comes for the daycare, we'll be doing a baseline assessment. That is a pre-vocational screening tool which gives a data about the patients regarding the socio-economic background, the educational data and the vocational data. Then the second comes about the pre-vocational assessment. So what are all the skills the patient has to enter into the competitive employment will be assessed through pre-vocational assessment, and the psychologist will do the cognitive assessments to find out the deficits in the cognitive domains. Then the patients will be entering into the second phase of intervention, which is like work-oriented therapy. In SCARF, we have lot of work units like making paper bags, jute bags, incense sticks, cleaning agents, and craft, tailoring, embroidery. Why it is important? So we all know that work serves as a work makes a patient more productive, and they will be, if they are occupied in a productive work, it will improve their it may reduce their symptomatology. So work-oriented therapy is important, and pre-vocational training. This pre-vocational training will be done in a group therapy. Basic skills which are needed for the patients to enter into a competitive employment will be focused, like basic communication skills, assertiveness training, time management, how to control the anger, then basic cognitive skills training. So all these things will be covered in the pre-vocational training in the form of group therapy. Then cognitive retraining, which it will be like a manual based and computer based cognitive retraining will be done for the patients, and all the tasks will be greater both with the complexity of the task and also with the time gradation. Then counseling will be given by the case managers both for the family and for the patients, and the post assessments to find out whether there is any improvement with all these types of interventions. Then comes a follow-up of job search, then placement of the patient, and the performance, whether there is any deterioration in the work performance or is there any other skills needed to be trained will be found out through the evaluations. So, so far we have seen lot of stepwise approach to rehabilitate the patients towards employment. So with all this stepwise approach of vocational services, many of them are able to get the job but fail to maintain the job. Why it is so? Through case record study, we found out the reason for the dropouts. That is, they say that they feel dissatisfaction with the work, and there were lot of interpersonal stresses, and there is no involvement in the family, and there were no flexible timings, inability or unwillingness to negotiate the adjustments, wrong assumptions about the work-induced relapse, stigma, discriminations, and ignorance about the rights, fear of disclosure of mental illness, and lack of transportations. And the research evidence also says about the train and place model is a slow stepwise process, and it perpetuates low expectations and long-term disability, and there is no long-term effect on the therapeutic outcomes. So what can be done? So we need changes in our service. So what are all the changes we can make in our train and place model? So to reach the lower dropout rates, there is a need for evidence-based practice. So plan for a multi-dimensional framework. So we, the mental health teams, have to place an agenda for improving the vocational training. See, develop models which cater to all the sections of the society and consumers with varying levels of disability. Persons who are not able to work in the informal sectors, plan for the self-employment. Person who can work in the formal sectors, plan for the acquisition of the skills through vocational intervention. Persons who are in rural population, facilitate the agriculture-oriented employment vocations. Then for the home employment, create prospects for the self-employment for consumers who do not want to enter into a open employment. Equip the families with the necessary skills for generating their income. Periodic follow-up of the trainees is must to ensure the implementation of the training. Provide guidelines for marketing the products in their society. We provide a free training as a part of income generating program both for the family and for the patient. And there are some inputs needed for the pre-vocational interventions. That is, we have to focus on the work-related behavioral skills like attendance, punctuality, safety precautions to be followed in the work area. This is the major expectations from the employers. So core skill training like how to interact with the supervisors, with the co-workers, how to tackle the situation assertively should be focused. Then insist on small social network and survival skills. We all know as the level of disability increases, the social network size automatically gets decreased. So insist on the social functioning and focus on the common work-related problems related to cognition, because we know cognitive retraining is at least it needs 3 months of training, both computer-based and manual-based. So targeting the work-related problems related to cognition is very important. Support group, that is consumers who are already in employment, they can tell the successful stories, they can share the successful stories to within the group. This will be encourageable and motivational to the other patients. Encourage them to talk about the fears and concerns about the work and provide assistance. Build confidence on them by giving attention to each individual's strength and motivations. If the patients are already there in the employment, give them a vocational counseling to retain the job. And work simulation activity is nothing but instead of placing them in the work unit, in different work unit as we prefer, we have to place them in a real work situations so that it will be transfer of learning into a real life situations will be helpful for them. And regular follow-up is essential. So this is a work simulation activity. In the first picture, this group needs self-employment alone. They doesn't want to go for an open employment. So we are giving them training in making paper bags so that they can make productive things upon them. So this, and in the second picture, that those two persons are willing to go for a tailoring as an choose tailoring as an employment. So we are giving a real work situation. So transfer of learning will be useful for them. And family education is must. Involve them as a partners. Educate about the relatives, the level of capacity in the work. Alert their anxieties, alleviate their anxieties about the relapse. Advise what to say to the employers when the relative is sick. Recognize the signs of stress and relapse. Contact professionals early to prevent the job loss. About the employers, we have to keep strong liaisons with the employers. We have to address the vocational need of the clients, the level of education and the access to the employment. Inform the employers about the value of work, of health and recovery. Studying the workplace environment is very important. We have to felicitate the supported employers, as we have recently, staff has honored the employers who have placed their clients for more than a year in employment. And with the impact of this staff Aadhar award, the employers, they themselves came voluntarily, they identified some of the employers, they all came to the staff premises and they did a job interview with their clients and recruited few of our clients for employment. So promoting job fair is very essential. So this was the recent staff Aadhar award which we have honored the supported employers. And finally, the agenda for the policy makers are reservations for the employment in government and private sectors, creation of regional training center, support for the demonstration projects that can be carried out by the NGOs, support for the seminars and the workshops related to occasional services model. Thank you.
Four very nice presentations. Yeah. Can we have lights, please? Yeah. Thank you. We have about 15-20 minutes for questions, comments, discussions. So if there are any comments or questions to the speakers,
see these figures that this particular percentage of people with mental illness are not in jobs or they do not go back to the jobs or cannot hold their jobs is actually, it will vary very widely depending upon the setting in which you study. Now these are very different settings. If you go to a general hospital psychiatric OPD and do a similar study, what you will find is that the majority of the patients go back to work. In fact, one of the problems that they face is that they want to come on a Sunday for follow-up because that's their holiday, and on Sundays the hospital is closed. So, and these are the common mental disorders. So, what I'm trying to say is that let's not go back to the impression that all mental illnesses, like was pointed out by Justice Paul, that there are mental illnesses and there are mental illnesses. In fact, the common mental illnesses are not much of a disability as far as the job is. That's what I want to say. Now, of course, if you go to place, which is a psychiatric hospital, purely a psychiatric hospital, I think the figures won't remain that healthy. And when you come to the such settings, rehab settings, where the honest diagnosis is chronic psychotic illness, so naturally, because these do affect various cognitive functions, interactional abilities. This also ties in with what Mr. Desiraju said in the morning, that all mental illnesses do not lead to disability. Some of them do not lead to disability, some of them lead to minimal disability, which is not permanent, and some of them they do lead to stable disability. Now, the second point that I want to make is that there is actually a very acute dearth of research in this area. There is hardly any research which tries to find a fit between a recovered mental patient and his or her suitability for a particular job. And I think that is one of the main problems. We try to fit in, and it doesn't fit. And there's no research on that. The area thrives on the compassion and commitment of the activists, not on any hard data. Thank you.
I'll call them incubators. But I would like to bring a contrarian perspective, keeping in view the overall topic. And because now this program is halfway. It's the end of the second session. There are 2 more sessions here. See, mental illness is an equal opportunity disease. It is. It's not that it affects one section of the society and it leaves other section of the society. And there are, as was told in the first session also, there are stratified layers. And I would like, this question is more on the moderator. We have at least 2-3 layers I will tell, I will not tell many. One is the layer where of those mentally ill people whom courts have already declared people of unsound mind. Now, once you go in that category, there are more than 100 statutes in the country who declare them a non-person status. I do not know how and what type of employment opportunities are going to be provided to them and how. Second, I saw a set of people, I think Dr. Kishore, you were there, Dr. Kala was there, Pandita, you were also there. When we went to Masood Beggars home, there was a set of 60 beggars in mentally ill condition presented to us as if they are being sent to extermination camp. We were told that vocational training is given to them. They work for full month. You know how much payment they give for full month work? 5 rupees. Because that's the 5 rupees which the Beggars Act permits. And third is a whole set of layer of people suffering from serious mental disorders at every level of society. Trust me, when I joined my job in the private sector, I was given a case of 2 people whom I was supposed to send out of their job within 3 months. I found one was suffering with bipolar disorder, another was suffering from severe depression. Both were products of IIM Ahmedabad. What I did, I waited for 9 months, I outplaced him instead of sending him to. I'm simply telling you the type of issues which are involved with the employability. I went to IIM Ahmedabad 2 years back to take a lecture. My first slide says the presenter is a sufferer of bipolar disorder. But before that slide, I asked a question to the students of 200, class of 200 by Ahmedabad. Is there any one person who is suffering from mental disorder? No hands. At the end of the class, 20 persons came. Either they or their family members were students. So what I'm telling is that when we are talking about the employability, employability is not only at the lower level, not only at the level where the vocational people with the vocational list are concerned. I'll tell you, I lost my job on 1st April this year. I did not lose my job because I am mentally ill. My organization knew for 9 years that I am mentally ill. I lost my job because they decided I have started a foundation for the mentally ill. Probably I will not work in the interest of the organization. I will work more for the mentally ill. So all I am telling you is, and this is an intervention for the balance part of the program, that when we are talking about mental illness and employability, let's start from the bottom of the pyramid. Let's go up. Problems are there everywhere. The issue is how to ensure that the people suffering from mental illness, when inside employment, they get the similar treatment as a person suffering from cancer gets. No, not only have to be a madam here, madam is here. See, go to contract, I can't, as per the act, I cannot sign contract act, I cannot sign a contract. If I am declared a person of unsound mind, when you go to how the person of unsound mind was decided, you have to go back to the 1946 Constituent Assembly debate, which was full of lawyers. It was decided, person of unsound mind was decided, it came in Constitution, it came in People's Representation Act. Once you are declared a person of unsound mind, I do not know, Madam Justice is here, whether there is a provision for that person again being declared a person of sound mind or not is exists or not. Because no mental illness is a permanent mental illness. At least you can be in full remission, even if not in full treatment, full recovery.
Contract. Now, so that the person agrees to whatever is in a position of understanding exactly what the contract terms mean. But the Contract Act also provides that a person who has periods of unsound mind, he or she cannot contract then. But if that person has lucid intervals, then they can. So now you see, now the thing is, now you must realize that most of these statutes which have come on which I was saying, that even the Mental Health Act of 1987, they have not in fact kept up to date with what has happened on the ground. The progress that medicine has made, the fact is that I don't know, of course, there's so many very eminent psychiatrists here, but I read in some newspaper account that 1 in every 5 Indians suffers from depression. So are we, but then employment has never been a problem for most of us. So therefore we must make a distinction between, and the laws need to be updated. You have to make a distinction between curability and incurability. If it is curable, then it should not in fact stand in the way of my holding any appointment or indeed any other, even in, as I said, in divorce. It is a ground for divorce. A man can divorce his wife, or a wife can divorce a man on the ground that that person is suffering from mental disorder. And the mental disorder unfortunately, in the Hindu Marriage Act, for example, clarifies that even if it is intermittent, even that is a ground. But where it is curable, nowadays, it is as curable as, for instance, let us say controllable, like diabetes. If diabetes is not a ground for divorce, why should it be? It is as physical, the cause may be as physical as a non-function of the pancreatic gland. So why should you treat it differently in law? And it is necessary to lay the foundation of whatever programs are being done by a reframing of the law, because society takes off from that. So you have to, I would request, especially when the government is here, that you should take an active part in the framing of the laws, because the 1987 Act is coming up for amendment. It is being amended. Please see to it that the laws are changed. There is a consistent and a defined attitude to what constitutes mental illness. While it can be protective in some cases, maybe in the incurable cases, but that protection can be restrictive and disabling in other cases. So you have to make a distinction between curability and incurability in law.
Ma'am, I will add only one more sentence to it. See, look, I have been on the board of directors of few companies, fully knowing that a person of